Hello, and welcome to Setups, Payoffs, and Reversals, the podcast companion to the book Setups, Payoffs, and Reversals, The Films of Shane Black. I'm your host of the podcast, Jake Jabor. I'm also the author of the book, Jake Jabor, which is available now in paperback wherever you get books. If I can recommend a place to get it, go to bookshop.org or go to jakejabor.com, and all the links for where to get it are there. That's right, I have an author's website, jakejabor.com, thanks to the good folks at Tertulia. This is not an ad. I'm paying to use their site, but I really like the author website. Great. Don't get the book at Amazon. I have because I'm pathetic and would love this book to get out however I can. But really, go to bookshop.org or Skylight Books or even Barnes & Noble, or get it directly from me at weimprov.org. A couple of pieces of business before we get into it. The first is I have this mic receiver, a Rode One, I believe, and a microphone, and it doesn't really work that well. So I'm recording this using my iPhone as a microphone, and based on the test audio I did, it sounds pretty good. But if it sounds like crap to you, that's probably why. And what else was a piece of business? Mass market paper books are going extinct. The New York Times did a little video on it. I didn't really know what mass market was. I mean, I kind of did. I was like, they're small, and they're cheap, and they sometimes like have funny drawings of like a muscular man waving a sword, or like a woman in a bikini on the beach, like a leopard bikini. But it designed, they were printed on pulp paper, which is cheaper paper, pulp fiction, and they were designed to fit in your pocket and cost less than a pack of cigarettes. And then it's really how Stephen King went from being poor and desolate to having $400,000 because he signed the rights to carry over to mass market. They're going extinct. The primary, I guess, printer isn't going to do them anymore, or publisher. And so you can't get them except for the old ones. Why does this matter? Because Setups, Payoffs, and Reversals is a lap book, a term I coined, a small book designed to fit in your lap, and it costs less than a pack of cigarettes. So over here at Physical Media Press, we are picking up the slack of the mass market paperback market. So support physical media, both the press and the idea, and get one of these books. Last point of business, I think you should really go see Send Help. It's in theaters. I don't know for how much longer. And it has some 3D showings, which I'm sure are not going to be around much longer. It rules. I wrote about it on my Substack. It's directed by Sam Raimi. It stars Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien. And I saw it twice. Once in 4DX. Nearly tossed my cookies. But it was a bloody blast. It did everything that I like a good improv scene to do, which is push things further than you think they need to go and then repeat it. So if you like improv and you're okay with some gore, go see Send Help. I thought it ruled. Also, on the second viewing, the first viewing, I was like, this is just kind of a nihilistic movie popcorn fun. And then the second time, I was like, I don't know. Maybe the message at the end has a little relevance. So check it out. You're not going to believe this, but I recorded the whole thing and the sound was terrible. So we're trying it again. And here's where I would have my ad break. But I don't have any sponsors. I don't know that anyone would sponsor this. I haven't asked. I haven't asked because I fear rejection. But also, I want to be able to say whatever I want without having to worry about sponsors and Sometimes what I want to say is fuck ICE and stop the genocide in Gaza. Even though there's a ceasefire, they are still bombing. People are still getting killed. And now that the Epstein files have been released, I want to see justice. These are all things that I might not be able to say if I was doing ad copy for Amazon. Fuck Amazon. Or Spotify. Fuck Spotify. Any of these choke point tech companies. A choke point is a company that sits between the artist and the consumer and sort of squeezes both ends, charging the consumer and taking a cut from the artist, all because they are the conduit. And I think that sucks. I think art should be unconstrained, unrestricted, and our voices are important. They are expressions of who we are and what we believe and what we think, and you can't really put a price on that. And not everybody can do it. Not everybody can be creative. That's why we have these billionaires. They can't do what we can do as artists, and so they're trying to take all the money and create artificial intelligence to produce art because they resent us and they would like to not have to depend on us. Because at the end of the day, Wall Street and corporations make money off of moving money around or providing people with services that are unnecessary. We can get art to one another without having to be beholden to some entity. That's what I believe, and I get to say it. They can't buy what we can do. They can offer you money for it, but they're always getting the deal. Even if they give you $1 million for your idea, it's a steal because your idea is unique and it's your voice and it can't be recreated even with the most advanced technology. So fuck selling out. And that's all I have to say about that. On with the episode. This episode is on The Predator. And I don't have a guest because I couldn't find a guest to talk about The Predator with me. Nobody seems to have that strong of a feeling about the movie. Certainly not a positive one. But it's one of Shane Black's films. It came after The Nice Guys and before Play Dirty. It was written by him and Fred Decker. And it bombed. It's not a great movie, though I don't hold Shane Black responsible, even though it's his script and his direction. He had to get money from a studio, 20th Century Fox, before they just became 20th Century Studios. And you can see that they sort of had their fingers in the pie. From what I understand, the script he and Decker wrote was very dark, and it had some big swing elements to it. At one point, Dutch, Arnold Schwarzenegger's character, was going to be at the end. He would be the predator killer that the Predator brought to Earth to save Earth from the upgrade predators. And we would also find out that predators had been working with humans. You can go online and find pictures of predators in tanks. Looks a little silly. I read the script. There's even predators in like science lab coats. It all sounds a little silly, but I like the big swing, and I wish we could have seen that version of the film. I like this movie. I recognize its many flaws. I don't think the CGI is very good, and it really sort of falls apart at the end. But I wanted to like this movie. And for someone who identifies with their interests and builds their personality around it, as flawed as that is, for this specific reason, that if something comes out that you like, or something in the genre you like, or the franchise or IP, or an artist puts out an album and you have an affinity for them or an affection for them, and it's not very good, you are faced with this sort of sense of, am I not very good? Is my personality that I've shaped and developed wrong or defective. And so we force ourselves to like things that we might not otherwise like, which is the downside to identifying with your interests, what you like. The high fidelity of it's more important what you like than what you are like. I recognize that flaw, but I also love Shane Black, and I think there's a lot to like about this movie. I talk a lot about it in the book, which I hope you'll pick up. That's the whole reason for doing this. And I reread the chapter in anticipation of doing this, but I'm going to shoot from the hip for a second time because, as I said, it didn't work the first time. So a couple of things that I wanted to highlight that I think are great about this movie. The cast, Boyd Holbrook, Trevante Rhodes, Sterling K. Brown are actors who are just built for Shane Black dialogue and action scenes. I think they're great. I'm thinking particularly of a scene in a barn where the bad guys have taken Boyd Holbrook's Nebraska hostage, and they're making plans for the weekend. And he says something to the effect of, "You guys must have not read my file because you're making plans for the weekend." And then he dispatches with them. Very cool. Very Shane Black. Also, I like Black's take on the Predator franchise in two ways. In the first way, how it's having a conversation with the first Predator. The first Predator, we're introduced to this squad of military badasses through their greased up biceps, and each character is sort of defined by their weapon of choice. Whether it be a giant chain gun that hangs off of a helicopter that one of the guys holds, or I think double Uzis. The guy with the glasses is a explosives expert. We get a big Bowie knife, and it sort of defines these guys by their heroic traits or what makes them killers. And they are sent on this mission to essentially eviscerate a village full of mercenaries, maybe full of an army, but it's a little unclear, and it's probably illegal and immoral. And then they get dispatched with by the Predator. In The Predator, the new movie, the band of soldiers are a bunch of broken vets. They're called the Loonies, and they are defined not by their weapons or their killing ability, but by their defects. Thomas Jane has Tourette's. He and Keegan-Michael Key's character were on different units in a war, and one of them killed the other one's units through friendly fire, and they became very close because, as it's explained in the movie, there was a bunch of court hearings and legal proceedings over years, and those two guys had to sit next to each other in courtrooms, and so they became close that way. Trevante Rhodes' character tried to kill himself, tried to shoot himself, and it didn't work. And every character is a little bit broken. So you are introduced to them not by their strengths, but by their weaknesses. And I just think that's a cool approach. Shane Black is excellent at creating characters defined by what makes them mortal, what makes them human, what makes them fallible. And I feel like that's a nice subversion on the action movie genre. Even though it's a movie about an alien coming down and killing a bunch of guys and the guys fighting the alien, it's also about a bunch of guys who can't get their shit together, who are uncomfortable and awkward around women, who are outcasts. And I think that Shane Black, having been in the first Predator movie and then writing and directing movies in Hollywood, you get to see this evolution of a guy considering what it means to be a man and what masculinity is. And it doesn't feel performative. There's plenty of performative stuff in the movie. Jacob Tremblay's character is a kid on the autism spectrum, and the Predators are trying to harvest his DNA because it's stated that the Predators see autism as the next line in evolution, which feels, performative and a little goofy. But a guy who made his mark writing about good guys killing bad guys and coming to this place where the good guys are not that heroic, are not that sexy, or not that cool, I think is very interesting. The other thing I really like about the movie is that it starts in a weird world. If you're an improviser, which chances are you might be if you're listening to this, the weird world is the point in an improv scene or an improv set where the unusual here gets multiplied and adopted in so many locations that it becomes part of the fabric of the reality. It's no longer unusual. It is the reality in which everybody operates. And a weird world example would be in Toy Story, the toys talking is not the unusual behavior. That's part of the reality. The unusual behavior is that Buzz Lightyear thinks he's an actual space commander, right? I call this the penthouse. If every scene starts in a base reality, grounded, that's the basement. We find something that is unusual in the basement, in the base reality, and we heighten it. We take it up the stairs. We show that it exists in other locations, and then we show that other individuals own or execute this unusual behavior. And then pretty soon, everybody does it. And the thing that studios are nervous about or worry about with audiences is that they won't be able to be dropped into a weird world. That's why sequels or reboots always sort of rewind the tape and start back at the origin story. Every Predator movie up until The Predator was about people learning about the Predator and then fighting the Predator, right? In The Predator, pretty early on, we learned that Sterling K. Brown, who works for the government, is very familiar with predators. There's a scene between him and Olivia Munn where she asks why it's called a predator. And he says it hunts its prey, stalks its prey, collects trophies. And Olivia Munn says, well, that's a sports hunter. That's not a predator. Predators hunt for survival. It's a pretty astute observation for a 30-year-old franchise because we've always called it the Predator, but Olivia Munn's character is right. It's a sports hunter. And in true Shane Black fashion, he has Sterling K. Brown say, well, we took a vote and Predator sounded cooler. Then, in a reversal or payoff of sorts, we learn that the Predators are here on Earth because Earth is about to go extinct, and so they need the DNA from humans to survive. So, in fact, they are predators. I think that's pretty cool. We also get Olivia Munn saying, you are one beautiful motherfucker, which is a callback to the first movie in which Arnold Schwarzenegger says, you are one ugly motherfucker, right? In Predator, we are introduced to the Predator, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is essentially the voice of reason going like, whoa, this is an ugly alien. In The Predator, Olivia Munn says, you're beautiful. So there's a recognition of curiosity, of knowing. Sterling K. Brown also studies the Predators. So we don't have to do that. Let's expose this unusual idea, this alien, to a world that doesn't know it. Let's start in a world that does know it, which allows you to heighten faster. Rather than asking questions, you just get to play in the world. I think it's very cool and speaks to the direction they were hoping to go with the film. Rather than discovering predators and the mystery of that, we have the initial idea of predators working with humans, of there being a new predator hunting the old predators. That's all stuff you can do in a weird world, in the penthouse, when the unusual idea is taken far above the base reality. It didn't work in execution, but I would argue that we might not have gotten Predator Badlands without the Predator. No disrespect to Dan Trachtenberg, who did Prey, Killer of Killers, and then Predator Badlands, the most recent 3 films in the Predator franchise. But when you have the Predator saying, we're aware of these creatures, you can then do Predator Badlands, which starts in the Predator universe, starts on the Predator planet. I went to see it in 3D. It was fucking great. And my friend's fiance had never seen a Predator movie, and she went to see it. And the whole time I was like, I can't believe she's starting with Predator Badlands. After the movie, I asked what she thought. She said she really liked it. She thought it was great. Because audiences are smart. They can adapt. So you don't have to do all this backstory. You can just start in a cool world. Predator Badlands could start there, I think, because the Predator took the first swing at it. And then someone like my friend's fiance could just go into Predator Badlands and enjoy the movie about a weird alien. So I admire the risk. I admire the swing. And I also think it makes sense that the Predator didn't work. Shane Black writes movies about setups, payoffs, and reversals. And the Predator is very much a reversal. Shane Black did Iron Man 3, huge hit, $1 billion movie. Some say it's the best Iron Man movie, the best Marvel movie. I tend to agree. Others didn't like the Mandarin twist. But that was a huge payoff. And so you would think his next project would also be huge. But it was not. It was The Nice Guys, which was a slept-on hit. The reversal is it didn't do very well. And the reversal on that is that it was really great. So the payoff is he got to do The Predator. So now expectations are high. And then the reversal is the Predator wasn't very good. So while it's a shame that it wasn't a better movie, I think it fits in nicely to Shane Black's filmography. I'm self-conscious about talking this long, so I'm going to wrap that up. I just want to say that I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about how it's easier to talk about movies that are bad because there's more to unpack than it is to talk about movies that are good. They were talking about Mercy, Chris Pratt in a chair talking to Rebecca Ferguson, an AI computer, being very bad. And Send Help, which I recommended at the top of this podcast and will recommend right now, is being very good. And that there was maybe less to talk about with the good movie. I think the same is true with improv. When scenes go well, there's not much to say. When scenes don't go well, there's a lot to explore. The thing I want to emphasize here is, even though The Predator isn't very good, there's a lot to explore about it, but it doesn't have to be all the ways in which it sucks. I think if you spend time with something, which I did for this book, and you like something, it's okay to spend time looking for something you like in a project you otherwise don't. That's the magic of art and human appreciation of art and connection. And what AI will never be able to do is create something that fails, but has something uniquely human about it or interesting to say about the people who made it. Tough to not get a little preachy on this. Anyway, thanks for listening to the Predator episode. check out my book. It's in Skylight Books, bookshop.org, anywhere you get books. Don't get it at Barnes & Noble. Or Barnes & Noble is fine. Don't get it at Amazon unless you really have to. I put it up there because I'm pathetic and want to get the book out there. But really, I'd love if you shopped locally, shopped independently. You can get it at jakejabor.com. You can get it at weimprov.org. And check out The Predator. I think it's a easy hang movie, and there's a handful of scenes that make it really fun. Next time I'm going to do Play Dirty. I don't know if I'll have a guest for that. I really enjoyed doing this, and I hope you enjoyed listening to it. And if you want to go out and tell a friend about this podcast, or go to your local bookstore and request setups, payoffs, and reversals, that would be awesome. You don't have to do my job for me. But there was recently a movie in theaters, The Iron Lung, that was self-financed by a YouTube guy. And he had all his fans call movie theaters and ask the movie theaters to put his movie in their theater. And they did. That's how we get around those choke points. Those advertisers, those studios, those tech companies. We just connect with one another. I'm not trying to lay this on you as a guilt trip or some form of nobility. But I think if you like independent art and you want to support it, there are worse ways to do it than asking your bookstore to carry my book. Okay, I feel silly about that. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you at the next one. Ta-ta.